Michael and Mark back with you here on a Career Ask Me Anything. And today, one of the questions we're looking at comes from Claudine via email here. And Claudine said, I recently had a few interviews for a promotion that I believe I could do quite well. I've been recommended, was even asked by a few of the managers to apply for the job. The hiring manager then reached out to me and said that the pool was large. I was valuable to the team, but they were only allowed to interview a few of the applicants, and I have been benched. How do you respond to something like that? Or do you? I thanked him for his consideration, for his transparency, but I'm annoyed. Did I miss an opportunity to get the position? So she was asked by some managers to apply for it. She applied and then didn't even get through the application process to get interviewed. Mark, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it does sound annoying. Actually, I'm quite annoyed by hearing it. Look, here's what I'd say to everybody out there. There's always room for negotiation. So somebody's saying, you know what, we're only allowed to interview. Well, okay, well, what would it take to make more allowance? What if you start negotiating with that person in order to kind of bend the rules a little bit, bend the allowance slightly? Look, people in bureaucracies will often say things like, well, these are the rules and we're only allowed this and this is what we've been told. But I would say always push back just that little bit and see what happens. Is that the end of the story? Is there going to be a second round? If there's not going to be a second round that you could get into, look, what would it take to get me in that first round? I really want this. I think I'm excellent for this job. What has to happen for you to expand that first round by just one more person? I don't know whether you've missed an opportunity there, Claudine, because who knows what can happen. Maybe it'll go to another group and you'll get in on that. I would ask after that and see what has happened in this place. Let people know that you are upset about this, or maybe not use that word upset, though it's probably a fine word to put some emotional pressure on people, but push a little bit on that. But Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I like what you're saying there. And when I heard you say pushback, it also made me think that maybe you should push aside a little bit. And so directly saying, no, I want the interview might not work, but we don't know why you've been recommended for it. Manager said, go for it. And they said, oh, we just don't have room to interview you. Is that because they'd actually already decided and the managers who are putting you aside think you're good for it, but somebody already had a lock on it and they didn't want to share that? We don't know what it is that caused that to happen. But I like what you're saying around, ask some questions and say, well, great, can you tell me more? What would it take to at least get an exploratory interview? Or I would love to know more about what it is that caused me to not be a part of the interview group. What is the differences between us? As I'm looking at my career, what can you tell me about? And just continue to kind of push to the side and see if there's some ways around it. And one of the things is that person who's in the middle relaying the news, they might not have an answer to that. They might need to go back and the manager might say, like, I'll just talk to them. And that's always good. And you're just in there curious. You're staying humble, inquisitive, proud, putting yourself forward, but curious, not upset, not pushing back, just asking some questions and engage with that manager, because this is a real opportunity. You might even say to them, you know what? I get that you're probably already have made a choice, it sounds like. I would love to have an interview anyway if I could. It doesn't have to be right now, maybe the next week or so, with that manager to find out more about what they would have been looking for. Get yourself in a position, if you can, to ask more questions and to get in contact with the managers, because what's done is that the barriers come down by this kind of intermediary, this functionary that's the gatekeeper. And you want to get through that gate, regardless of whether you're pitching to get the job. You just want to get through the gate so you're in front of them. Now, it may or it may not work. They may not have time for it. But over the aggregate of your career, the more you try and push aside, go around, and just gently and curiously but firmly get into the mix, the better the chance you're going to have. Because it's the person that has the conversation that eventually gets the job. So find a way to have that conversation.
If you've got questions for us about your career, you want to get in this conversation with us, michaelleckie.com/ask. Leave your question there or just message us down below, and we'll answer that question on another episode. We'll see you around.
Thanks.